Hello there everybody, how is it going and how have you been? I am EuclideanSqd, and we're back here in Duel Links to check out the newest version of the Monster World event. Now, this is the third time that they've held the event, if I'm remembering correctly, and it's kind of like a mini tabletop RPG sort of a thing. Basically, you move your little piece around on certain boards, different spaces have different events on them, and it's all kind of themed around the RPG games that Yami Bakura would make the protagonists play, I believe, mostly in the manga. I don't think that ever really came up in the anime. But it's a really fun event. I like it because it's a very different event compared to things like Duelist Chronicles or, what was the other one? Duelist Coliseum, I think it's called. But yeah, anyway, this is the newest version. There have been a couple of updates, but otherwise it's really identical, so this is probably going to be a pretty quick episode comparatively. But when you go into the event, you're presented with a board kind of like this one. I've already progressed quite a ways into the event, so you won't get quite this if you're just starting it. But to move around, you just click and or tap on whatever square you want your little Tristan piece to move to, and it will move there automatically. Now there are blank spaces, like the ones you can see here behind these two other ones. Those don't really do anything, but the magic circle space puts you into a dice battle, whereas a monster space will put you into a simple duel. Now when it actually comes to dueling, that is with cards, you are not allowed to bring in your own decks from outside. Instead, you are given decks as part of this event, and you find better ones as you progress, but you have to use one of these pre-built decks in order to actually duel within the event. So I have a couple, and what we'll usually start off with is the Spellcaster level 10 deck. And if I go ahead and click on it, you can see it's not that fantastic of a deck. For example, I believe the most powerful monster in it is this Rogue Doll with 1600 attack points. But to be completely honest, even this weak deck is going to be more powerful than what the AI opponents are going to be using at those stages of the game. So long as you continually, keep up with the newer and stronger decks that you are getting, you're pretty much always going to be ahead of the power curve when it comes to the AI monsters that you duel against. So for example, if we look at this dinosaur deck, which is the newest one that I found, it has a Tyranno Infinity, it has Oxygedons with 1800 attack, Jirac Iguanons with 1700 attack, 1600s, another 1700, as well as 2 copies of Jurassic World, which make all of these dinos 300 attack and defense stronger. Some survival instincts, just in case you need it to get some life points back, since it banishes any number of dinos from your graveyard, and you gain 400 life points for each. And then polymerizations and Blackroad Radius, which is a 2200 attack point dino, created from a fusion of Twin-Headed King Rex and Crawling Dragon number 2. In fact, let's go ahead and show you just how strong you are comparatively. Now, in addition to all this wandering the board, there are also treasure chests you can find. I think I've found all of the ones on the current map. But basically, the more stuff you do within this event, the more experience you gain within the event. And as you gain enough experience, your event level goes up. And at each new event level, there are a couple of improvements. For example, this whole event runs on a stamina system. So basically when you move to a new space, that takes up one of your stamina points. Engaging in a duel like this or in a dice battle, which I will show shortly, takes up slightly more. However, it will also give you more experience than just advancing to a new empty space. And when you fully level up, your stamina is replenished and the cap goes up. However, otherwise your stamina replenishes, I think it's like 1 point every 3 to 5 minutes, somewhere in that range. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and summon Jirac Iguanon. Might as well set a survival instinct, even though I'm pretty sure I'm not going to need it. Opponent plays a 1000 attack monster in attack mode, so I'm going to go ahead and play a Jurassic World, my other dinosaur, and immediately win. See? You're not in any danger. The AIs all have very reduced life points compared to what you have. In fact, I think in the earliest levels they only have like 1000 life points max, so it's really easy to knock through them. But yeah, so I got 4 experience, I got some lottery coins, and I can continue exploring. And this is basically what you do for the entire event. You just explore the board until you find the boss monsters, one with the crown, and you level up along the way. So in this case, my max stamina has gone from 35 to 40, as well as fully replenishing, and my max HP has gone from 25 to 28. Now your HP doesn't affect your life points in the duels. Instead, your HP is used in these dice battles, which are a much simpler version of a sort of battle mechanic, I guess. Basically, you're rolling d10s, the opponent is rolling restricted versions of d10s. Whatever you roll becomes damage. Whoever knocks out the other guy first wins. So, and I apologize, I feel a little tickle in my nose. I might sneeze abruptly, so just giving you all a heads up to that. As you can see, I rolled a bunch of dice. I got to do 18 damage. He rolled a bunch of dice. He only did 6. And this is a change that I actually really like. In previous versions of this Duel World, Monster World event, you had to keep clicking roll dice over and over and over again at each new round, and it just got a little tedious, especially at the higher stages when you're basically just going to be wailing on the monster back and forth for a couple of these turns. Instead, what you can do now is you can just hit Auto Duel, and the game will just roll through the dice for you. And in fact, while it's busy doing this, please excuse me as I blow my nose. I'm sorry if you hear this and it sounds disgusting. Okay, that's better. And hopefully I win. Please win. I win. Okay, good. If you do run out of HP, there's no downside, really, other than you having to spend the stamina to try the dice battle again. Oh, and I got a new deck. Look at that. So, yeah, basically, if your HP were to run out in one of those dice battles, you would just fail it, have to spend the stamina to start it again, but the monster would remain at whatever its HP was when it beat you. So, for example, if that Gold Enchanter had beaten me when I had those 6 HP left, and I started again, it would stay at the 6 HP, it wouldn't just go right back up to the max. You, however, fully heal your HP at the end of each dice battle, regardless of whether you win or lose. So, they're very simplistic, but they do also contain their own rewards, much like the duel spaces, and as you saw, those are usually where you are going to find your new decks to duel with. So, let's go ahead and take a look at the fairy deck that I just got. And, oh wow, this has a level 7, so we have Guardian Angel Joan, which is a 2800 attack monster that gives you life points equal to the original attack of whatever monster it destroys in battle. You get Element Valkyries, which gain either 500 attack if there's a fire monster on the field, or if there's a water, its control can't switch, which is not going to activate normally in this deck because I don't see any fires or waters. We have Spirit of the Breeze, which, as long as it remains in face of attack position, you gain 1000 life points during each of your standby phases. Except it has 0 attack, but it does have 1800 defense. There are Freya, Spirit of Victories, a level 1 fairy that says, while you control a fairy type other than Freya, Spirit of Victory, your opponent's monsters cannot target this card for attacks, and all of your fairies gain 400 attack and defense. Pretty cool. And then finally, Duname's Dark Witch, which is just a level 4 with 1800. You get a block attack, you get some Cestus of Douglas, probably mispronouncing that, but I really like this equip spell. You can only put it on fairy monsters, but they gain 500 attack, and whenever they do battle damage, you gain life points equal to that damage. We have Silver Bow and Arrows, which just give a fairy-type monster 300 attack and defense. And this Court of Justice Continuous spell, which says once per turn, you can special summon one fairy-type monster from your hand. You must control a face-up level 1 fairy-type monster to activate and to resolve this effect. You can only activate one Court of Justice per turn. And it seems like this is mainly supposed to work with Freya, so you would play Freya, use Court of Justice to then special summon. And yeah, there's no restriction on the fairy you could special summon, so you could special summon a Guardian Angel Joan if you wanted to. So, let's go ahead and try out this deck on the boss monster. Now, once you beat the boss monster in a duel, You will immediately progress to the next floor, but you can go back to previously visited floors to continue exploring if you decided to leave any areas uncovered, or if you just wanted to skip over something and try to progress progress to a new floor instead. But as I mentioned, every space gives you at least a little bit of experience. I think finding a treasure chest still only gives you 1 XP, but the treasure chests obviously have items, so you want to find as many of those as you possibly can. Let's see what this boss does. 1200 with violet crystal. Okay. Yeah, watch this. So, it's not allowed to attack Freya because I have another fairy. Element Valkyrie is now at 1900 attack. So, 1900, 500. I'm saving the silver bow and arrow just in case this thing does anything sneaky, but I don't think it will. It plays a 0 attack point monster, so yeah. You know what? Let's just smack the AI around a little bit, shall we? Duname's Dark Witch is already way strong enough to take it out, but I'm going to give her the equip spells anyway, and win. There we go. So yeah, even on floor 15 the bosses are stupid. However, the further down the floors you go, or the further areas you get to, I should say, the harder the bosses will eventually get. I know that the sort of mythical final boss thing for the event that has pretty much been hanging around since they started doing Monster World is Dark Master Zork. When you duel against that thing, its deck tends to be a little bit more difficult than you might expect, so that might give you some trouble. But for the most part, the decks that you find in this event are always going to be way more powerful than what the AIs are going to have, so you really shouldn't have that much trouble unless somehow your deck starts breaking on you very, very hard. And oh, there we go. So these are gold treasure chests. These will have better items in them than the standard bluish chests will. So I got 100 lottery coins, I got 25 gems, that's very nice in fact, and another 100 lottery coins. Right? And I'm exploring every single space, even though I don't have to, just to try and maximize the experience I get. Let's go ahead and have one more duel just for the hell of it, and then I will talk about the new cards that you can get in this event. Now there are some more things to this event other than just a couple of new cards. For example, as of tonight, the night that I am recording this, some additional areas have been unlocked, including the area where you can unlock Tristan Taylor as a character for you to use in the rest of the game. So if you missed this event the last time it came around and gave you an opportunity to unlock Tristan, you can do so now. I will double check what floor he's on once I get out of this duel. I want to say he's on the last possible floor at the moment, but I also don't quite remember when that floor is. So, here we go. And it turns out that this boss monster is actually smart enough to put stuff in defense mode, so it's already significantly better than everything I have fought so far. And look at that, same setup of monsters that I had last time. Gonna be using Valkyrie because I know she's more than strong enough to punch through the defense. And after I'm done throwing the camera all over the place, the other two can attack and win the duel. So, yeah. Again, AIs are not hard in this event. You will probably have more trouble losing to the random chance at the dice battles than you will to the actual duels in this event. Alright, not going to go any further, we're just going to go ahead and look at some of the rewards. So as you can see, you do get a reward for finishing each floor. It can be anywhere from coins for the lottery, gems, items, these stamina potions, which can obviously recover your stamina if you don't want to wait. Copies of cards. Let's see here. Now for me, because I already unlocked Tristan, he is replaced with an ultra rare jewel, which is not, unless it's only showing me up to a certain distance. Complete area 25 to unlock Tristan. Am I blind? No, for my Oh, I guess he's an extra bonus on top of the card that you would normally get for completing Area 25. So, okay. Well, that's cool. You get a card and an ultra rare jewel or a new character. I like that. Yeah, lots of cards. There are going to be more areas added even further along in the future. And in those areas are going to be a new skill for Yami Bakura. Specifically, it looks like when you complete Area 45, which actually, that's out now, isn't it? No, we're up to 35. Okay, so 45 won't appear... I thought it said so. Here we go. Okay, so for me, at 11 p.m. on May 19th, your time zone will change this activation date slightly. But basically around May 19th, May 20th, so only 3 to 2 days left in the event. Area 45 will be added, and on that floor, when you beat it, you get a new skill for Yami Bakura, which is simply Zork appears, you roll a 6-sided die. If the result is less than the current turn count, you get to play one Dark Master Zork from your hand. The skill can only be used once per duel. So obviously you're going to want to activate this later on in the duel. And this is nice because Dark Master Zork is actually a ritual monster, so this lets you play it without having to include the ritual spell in your deck. And obviously if you can somehow stall until turn 7, which is pretty easy considering the nature of some stall decks I've seen, this is pretty much a guaranteed just summon a Zork for free, which is a very powerful monster, and I will be going over that shortly. But first, the 2 new cards that have been added. So first off, we get Ghost Ship, which is a level 5 Light Fiend with 1900 attack and 1000 defense. It cannot be normal summoned or set, and instead must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing a light monster from your graveyard. So you could special summon it and then immediately tribute it for something else. You could special summon it and then play Tuner for an instant synchro summon. Plenty of options for you to use Ghost Ship. And the other card is Yaksha, a level 4 water fairy with 1900 attack and 1500 defense that is a spirit monster. Now, I may have covered this at some point in the past, however spirit monsters are relatively rare, so I'm going to go over their special thing. Basically, during the end phase of whatever turn they are normal summoned or flip face up, they return to your hand. So they don't stick around on the field for very long unless you use some other cards that are specifically meant to work alongside spirit monsters. And additionally, Yaksha cannot be special summoned. So no matter what you try to do, once it's in the graveyard, it'll stay in the graveyard. There's no way to just special summon it out from your hand and try to get around the whole returning to your hand thing. Yaksha won't do that. However, in exchange for this sort of flakiness, I'll say, spirit monsters tend to have pretty strong effects. And in Yaksha's case, when this card is normal summoned or flip face up, you get to target a spell or trap card your opponent controls and immediately return it to their hand. So that's pretty good. If your opponent only has one set spell or trap card, you can just normal summon Yaksha, send it back to the hand, and you have a 1900 monster that doesn't have to worry about whatever that might have been. So that's pretty good. And then here we have Dark Master Zork. So even though it's been hanging around since the beginning of the event, Zork is now getting a buff in the form of that skill that Yami Bakura can unlock. And specifically, Zork is a level 8 Dark Fiend ritual with 2700 attack and 1500 defense. Ordinarily, it is ritual summoned with the card Contract with the Dark Master, which I think is just a regular old ritual spell. It doesn't have any secondary effects beyond summoning Dark Master Zork. And once per turn, you get to roll a 6-sided die, and you destroy all monsters your opponent controls if you roll a 1 or a 2. You can destroy one monster your opponent controls if you roll a 3, 4, or 5, or destroy everything you control, well, all monsters you control if you roll a 6. So, slight chance of really hurting yourself, but it's also a 5 out of 6 chance of destroying something of your opponent's as well, which is pretty good odds overall. And obviously, with the skill, you don't have to worry about trying to ritual summon using standard methods of the ritual spell and then offering stuff that's level 8 or a ritual raven or whatever. You get to just play a Zork if you roll right. And let's go ahead and go to the lottery really quick. So yeah, this is yet another card lottery event in a row. Still not super thrilled with these whole things. I just don't really like them, and it seems like it almost, well, at least for me, it seems like the drop rates have gotten worse. But I don't know, maybe I'm just having a spot of bad luck. But there are plenty of really good ultra rares and super rares in here. This one's not so good of an ultra rare, I guess, but Umbra Mirage the Elemental Lord is a level 8 Dark Fiend with 2800 attack and 2200 defense. Cannot be normal summoned or set. It has to be special summoned from your hand by having exactly 5 dark monsters in your graveyard. When it is special summoned, you get to add a monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. So it's a Seeker monster. Kind of easy to special summon if you are careful, but otherwise it just has a fairly rough downside of saying that if it ever leaves the field, you have to skip the battle phase of your next turn, which is not particularly great, but yeah. Moving on, the super rares are slightly better. So there is another ritual support card in the form of Jin, Demolisher of Rituals, a level 3 Dark Fiend with 1500 attack. When you ritual summon a monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard as one of the monsters required for the ritual summon. And if a player ritual summons using this card, the ritual monster cannot be targeted by the card effects of the other player. Oh, I forgot to mention that this thing has 600 defense as well, but you're probably going to be using it for that secondary effect for the most part, since making your ritual monster just immune to all targeting effects from your opponent is pretty darn good. No enemy controllers, no, I think widespread ruin targets, I'm not super sure. But yeah, things like, basically anything that says target doesn't work on them anymore. There is Skilled White Magician, which is a pretty good spellcaster. It's level 4 with 1700 attack and 1900 defense. And much like other skilled something magicians, every time a spell card is activated, it gets a spell counter up to a maximum of 3. And you contribute it with 3 spell counters on it to special summon something from your hand, deck, or graveyard, in this case a Buster Blader. Earthbound Spirit is a really good level 4 fiend with 2000 defense, just because there's not a whole lot of things with that high amount of defense. So if you're wanting to stall, for example, to use Yami Bakura's new skill more effectively, Earthbound Spirits can help. Scrap Kong is not that great of a card, considering that it immediately destroys itself if it is ever normal summoned. Supposedly it would work well with other scrap monsters, but again, I'm not familiar with other scrap monsters, so I don't really know. And then there is Battleguard Rage. I'm not going to cover any of the rares of the normals, but Battleguard Rage is a pretty cool card. It's a continuous trap that you activate by targeting one warrior-type monster you control, and it gains 1000 attack points. And monsters that get destroyed by battle with it are returned to the hand instead of going to the graveyard. And when the monster that this is effectively equipped to leaves the field, Battleguard Rage also self-destructs to clear out your back row for you. So it's pretty good, since there are quite a lot of good warriors. A 1000 attack point boost is always going to be nice, and it can kind of mess with your opponent, sending stuff back into their hand instead of putting it in the graveyard where other things might be able to revive, or possibly effects might activate. So, for example, I know that there is a fairly strong 6 Samurai deck going around that relies on, what is it? I think it's called Secret 6 Samurai Fuma. But whatever it is, it's a level 1 that says when it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, the controller gets to just special summon a 6 Samurai from their deck. Battleguard Rage will kind of get around that, since it kicks it back into your opponent's hand instead of sending it to the graveyard. So that's pretty cool, I guess. I don't know, I'm not an expert. I like it. Yeah, there's a couple of other rares, a couple of other normals. There's, I think, some good ones in here, but for the most part, they're not that fantastic. I want to call out Regenerating Mummy just because it is an 1800 attack point zombie, which I feel is somewhat rare outside of certain archetypes, but if you're looking for just a decent level 4 or a decent dark with like in terms of stats, regenerating Mummy is pretty good. Effect doesn't activate that often, but it's nice. And I think that's kind of everything. And I'll go back to the reward list to show you that at Area 10 you get a Battle Guard Rage. Clearing Area 18 gets you a Zork. 20 gets you a copy of Yaksha. 25 gets you an Umber Mirage. 35 gets you a Jinn. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some area in the next set of levels that will get you a Ghost Ship. Because that is something that Konami usually does, is all the new cards and or really good cards out of the lottery you get one copy of just as a floor reward. That does remind me though that the event does also include EX Jewels, so let's take a look at what the card trader has. And at the card trader you can possibly buy a copy of Ghost Ship, Umber Mirage, and Zork. Yaksha, yeah, so it looks like everything on the card lottery list can be purchased from this guy. I wasn't quite sure, sometimes his stock is a little bit different compared to the lottery. That's actually pretty nice. So if the lottery is being somewhat mean to you, but you are getting EX gems out of it, you can use those to try and buy up extra copies of the cards that you really want. And that's kind of everything there is to the Monster World event. It seems fairly straightforward because it is straightforward. You just explore the boards, do easy duels, roll die, and profit. So, yeah. One quick thing before I go. There is a set of bingo missions. I'm not really going to cover these just because the cards that you get out of it are not, like, none of them are new. They've all been from, you could all get them from, like, random little previous events, like login bonuses and stuff like that. But I will click through if you want to see them. So there is Magician's Rod. You can also get a copy of Battle Guard Rage this way. There is Golden Homunculus. There is Millennium Shield. And finally there is Hannibal Necromancer. So if you want to read any of those card effects, go ahead and pause, back up the video a bit and pause them when they come up. I don't want to read through them just because my throat is starting to hurt a little bit. Pretty good way of getting gems at the very least. New sheets will be added regularly, and it looks like there's actually 4 sheets this time around instead of just 3, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, there you go. That's very fast rundown of another event that they're holding again. So with that, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all had a great time, and I hope you all have a great day. And I will see you all in the next one.